Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler to work on your health? The MovieBuffs Podcast is brought to you by Time to Train Fitness, your home for on-demand workouts for every level of fitness. Exercise with amazing certified instructors that want you to push through any barriers. At Time to Train Fitness, you'll find quality workouts across 6 class formats, including indoor cycling, HIIT, bar, yoga, strength training, and dance cardio. Stream brand new classes releasing every week in our 450 plus on-demand workout library. Use the link in the description to view all of the membership options and to start a free 5-day trial. Get ready to press play on your next workout.
Hey everybody, Ronjam here, and I'm excited to talk to you today about our sponsor. For any of my fellow fitness buffs out there who love to train, you also know that hard training leads to aches and pains, and that's why I love today's sponsor, Royal & Pure CBD. Their philosophy is to enhance your life with pure ingredients that you and your pet can feel good taking. Royal & Pure products combine the healing properties of hemp-derived CBD with other active botanical ingredients to enrich your daily activities and ease the aches, inflammation, and pains that come from being active, aging, or just daily life. I use their salve on all my achy spots, especially on my recovery days, and I always use their PM tincture to help me get a great night's sleep and recover to hit it hard the next day. They're offering our listeners 20% off at checkout by using code RONJAM20. So if you're interested in checking out their great products and seeing just how helpful they can be, visit royalandpure.com and use code RONJAM20 at checkout for 20% off. Okay, time for the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the MovieBuffs Podcast, the strongest podcast in the world about movies. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Ronjam, joined as always by LT Gray, and you, my friends, are in for a real fucking treat, as this is our first ever fully R-rated episode. So, Tyler, what the fuck is up, man?
You're really leaning hard into that R rating.
Yeah, bitch. How's it going, man?
It's going. I'm excited for today's episode. We haven't recorded in a bit.
Yeah, you're all rock hard in your penis area.
I don't know if you're actually going to keep any of this, but we'll see.
So now that we're here, let's start getting warmed up, man. It's been a minute. Our last 2 episodes were recorded and put out on a staggered schedule because I've been busy and out of town. But we're back. We're live. At least the people hearing this live include the flowers on the table beside me and Tyler's wife, maybe in the other room.
Well, jumping into our warm up, and
you're just going to ignore it? Who's there listening? Your cats count, right? They're listening to it live.
There are no cats with me.
There are no cats in your house?
Not with me in my office.
Aaron, you hear this guy lying about cats?
Just because you know one of our fans doesn't mean you can always lean into that.
He's got my back.
Sure
okay, so let's get warmed up. I'll stop sidetracking you. What do you got going for us today?
Before we jump into the news, what I'm going to do is actually give a shout out to our top cities. This is our 12th episode, and it's pretty cool. With this iteration of our podcast, we're seeing some pretty cool analytics, and we want to make sure that people that are listening, they know that we appreciate them. So I'm going to read our top 8 cities here, and thank you for tuning in, subscribing. If you can, leave us a review. That definitely helps us get the word out there more, and sharing it with your friends. So we have Columbus, Ashburn, Chandler, Manhattan Beach, Chino, Thousand Oaks, Brussels, and West Roxbury. Thank you for being our listeners and
more
tuning
like a
in.
night at the Roxbury, huh?
That's a good one.
Good movie.
So I'm going to jump into the news now. We have quite a list with Ronald's time off last week. I just accumulated a list of news to share, and it's good stuff. Some of it good, some stuff to laugh at. And the first one I'm going to go with is, according to Screen Rant, Lucasfilm is reportedly planning a post-sequel of Star Wars about a new Jedi Order. Exciting stuff, in my opinion. Ronald, do you think there is ever going to be a Star Wars that everybody likes? I think that's honestly an impossible thing, but that everybody likes.
I don't know. I feel like the Star Wars fandom was pretty united about liking The Mandalorian, although I know personally a person who claims to be a huge Star Wars fan who refuses to watch anything past the prequels. So my answer is no. And one thing I want to say real quick to Tyler, shout outs for always having a decent follow-up. When I give the news, it's usually like, just here's the news and then I'll stop talking. So I want to thank Tyler and be real grateful for my co-host here for really teeing me up with some shit to talk about. Thank you for that, Tyler. Now, what's next?
Before we go into it, you are correct with, at the beginning, a lot of fans were united with Mandalorian, and I think that kind of fell off the cliff with this Book of Boba Fett. I'm not going to go too much into it because Ronald has not caught up with it.
Don't say my name on the phone.
But with The Mandalorian, a lot of stuff I feel like was put into it that can push Star Wars forward, and that's really all I'm going to say about that. So next piece of news here, Blade Runner 2099 in the works at Amazon, which is surprising, but they have a lot of money. First question for you. I have two of them here. First question, and it's not really a question actually when I look at my notes here. It's my weekly note to say screw you to Ridley Scott. So got that out into the universe.
Let's get him mad at us, Tyler. Thank you. Just so you know, sure Mr. Scott and all prominent directors in Hollywood, none of the views expressed by Tyler Valencia are expressed by myself. So if you're looking for me or you need to cast me, I do not share this man's opinions.
What's kind of funny now that I think about it, now that I've finished that whole series of Love, and in it, I don't know did you even watch it? So will my joke even hit with you?
I've heard it a lot. I don't watch it, but I'll hear it while I'm doing other stuff.
So in the show, quote unquote, the character was like an assistant to Ridley Scott, and then he like wanted like a raise or something.
I think that was his real life story too.
Was it really?
Yeah, my wife was telling me that.
Now I kind of feel bad for like laughing about it, because if it is his real life, I thought it was just like made up. But this is my weekly screw you to Ridley Scott. Question now for you. So new Blade Runner in the works here. Amazon, a lot of money. My question is, with this announcement, it stated that Scott could potentially direct the series. Do you think there will be or could be any tonal issues and shifts with it going from Scott to Villeneuve back to Scott? Could this kind of mess with the release at all?
That's interesting. I don't know. I feel like tonally speaking, Denis Villeneuve's version kind of picked up, at least tonally, where the other one left off. Obviously, they look different. It's set in the future. But I don't know how it would be. I think Ridley Scott's like 83 years old. I don't know if that's the person you want to like put another $1 billion TV show in charge of somebody who's that old because of the production process. This show, we're not going to see it for 3 to 4 or 5 years. I mean, it puts this guy close to 90. So I think that more than tone might be the biggest issue, is just the time it takes to produce something like this. And, the director's age being a prohibiting factor.
Yeah. I mean, with Villeneuve, with him being tied up with Dune, I don't see him stepping with it. And who's really out there? If you think about sci-fi directors, who's somebody that could potentially step in for that? I don't know. It's a good thought process, though. Next piece here that I know Ronald will enjoy talking about is, over the last couple weeks, Spider-Man No Way Home has officially surpassed Avatar to become the third highest grossing domestic movie of all time.
Wow.
And from what I hear since then, and since I put this note in here, it's actually been granted access to release in China, which is an actual thing.
Oh, wow.
So that number could make a huge jump in the next coming weeks as well. So these days, So these days, critics and fans try to base a movie's success off of box office numbers. I'm going to get to that later on when I talk about a different movie here. But the Academy Awards could honestly care less. That's not really like news. That's just the fact of it. But do you think a category should be made for popular releases, or do you think maybe any change should occur? Should there be popular movies a part of Best Picture?
Well, there actually is proposed a new category for this year's Oscars that is fan favorite movie of the year. And they're actually taking the popular vote off Twitter, people using hashtags. So they are implementing that currently. The thing that I heard, the first thing I thought about it rather when I heard, was how are people going to ruin this? How long until the best Razzie winner and the best popular picture is going to be the same? That being said, I'm pretty sure No Way Home is going to win that Oscar if they do end up going through with it, because people loved it.
Agree. Do you think the whole premise of, I don't care that nobody watched, if it's a good movie, it's a good movie and it needs to be a Best Picture, do you think that thought process is true?
And the thing about that, I think it's tough because obviously what makes a movie good or great or the best is all subjective. So I do think there needs to be some objective criterion placed, Obviously that will be prohibitive to some point, but if a movie is loved by the most people and seen the most, it should at least garner the opportunity to be reviewed for Best Picture, because it's making all this money. People must enjoy it. It must be close to the best.
Yeah.
But a movie can still be dog shit and make a lot of money. I mean, we've seen that many times. I'm not going to say names. But this is not in relation to the last thing I said, but relation to the headline itself. It's funny that Spider-Man passed Avatar, because Avatar, as you know, was directed by James Cameron, and Spider-Man, the initial adaptation they were looking for in the late 90s, was directed by James Cameron. It was set to star Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Dr. Octopus. And then it ended up evaporating, and he did Titanic. And this whole process was parodied in the show Entourage when he directed Aquaman with Vinny Chase. And again, funny story, Vinny Chase is replaced in Aquaman #2 by Jake Gyllenhaal, because Jake Gyllenhaal was set to replace Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2, because Tobey Maguire had a back injury that he was also using to leverage into a greater payday for Spider-Man 2. So he was almost Spider-Man. And then in fiction, he became Aquaman. So there's that. Let's move on.
That's pretty good. There's just one piece I want to add in, because with the Academy Awards...
I said let's move on!
Nope.
Okay.
With the Academy Awards, I really feel like there's a part of like elitism with it, that they think that, and even critics and people that blog about movies, that they think that they know so much more about movies than the average viewer. But I think with access to movies these days, and especially quality movies, a good point that Ronald made in the last episode was how streaming has made these Best Picture nominations, these nominees, more accessible to the general public, and it gets more eyes on them. But yet still, if nobody is interested and wants to watch them, what does that mean? Is it really a Best Picture, a really good movie? I mean, some of these, they're painful to watch, in my opinion. And I wouldn't say I'm the average viewer. I research. I know quite a bit that goes into production, not on the grand scale of a Hollywood movie, but I'm not the average person, I'd say. And it's kind of that elitism that pushes people like myself away from watching the Academy Awards. So it's something to think about.
It sure is.
Yeah. Well, more positive stuff here. Actually, it's not positive, but I like Star Trek.
Okay.
A new Star Trek film was announced at the Paramount Investors Day, and it's slated for December 22nd, 2023, next year.
Wow. So they must be going into production really soon then, right?
You would think that. So now, since I originally grabbed this piece of news, reports are coming out now that the main cast members haven't signed on and had no idea about this release.
Interesting.
So my question to you, Ron, does this sound like a contract strategy or a potential reboot? And I asked that, and I'm going to put that caveat in there that I'm not saying that Paramount is the worst studio, but that doesn't seem like they have all their parts assembled, and it seems like kind of a bad move in my opinion, but go ahead.
I mean, who knows what's going on? I feel like reboot is always on the table. I had heard that the proposal for it was J.J. Abrams to return in a writing and producing capacity, and the whole new cast, I guess original cast from the new movies, is supposed to return, and they're eyeing to get Hemsworth back as Kirk's dad, and it's going to be a time travel picture. So if no one signed on, sounds like that's not happening, and that's a bummer, because I watched one of those and I liked it, and I watched the other one and it was okay. And then the third one I've been meaning to watch, and it's only been 7 years, so I'll get to it.
I remember actually when that one came out, because I feel like I texted you after to say like, hey, you need to go watch it. I liked it. It was pretty good. And you probably just blew it off. But
I definitely did.
Yeah. And this was back when we lived in the same town. But
funny non sequitur. I was talking to a client the other day, and they were mentioning something is like the Goonies. And I went, huh, interesting. Being suspiciously quiet, to which the client said, oh, hey, I lent you my DVD of the Goonies about 5 years ago. Did you ever watch it? And I said, I sure didn't. And he said, do you know where it is? I said, I sure do. And the person said, well, just keep it till you watch it. And I said, well, then I'm never giving it back, because I'm never fucking watching it. So that's how I feel about recommendations.
So aggressive about the Goonies.
Yeah, I am. What's next, bud?
Well, another announcement from the Paramount Investor Day was that John Krasinski announces A Quiet Place 3 is in the works. 2 questions for you now. First one, did you see any of these, and did you like them at all?
First, I want to say I absolutely hated them. I despised them. I don't like them at all. Second, I want to say I didn't see them.
Okay.
No, I didn't see a moment of them. I heard they were good. I heard they were tense. That's it. I have no idea. I've never seen the films, and I like horror movies, but again, I missed the first one, and everyone said, "Oh, you got to see it." To which I said, "No, I don't," and now I won't. And here we are.
If you listen to the podcast and you're friends with Ron, you know you have to do some type of mind trick on him to watch something. You have to invite him over, maybe have food involved. He does like Mexican, so maybe if you do some type of Mexican dish,
we just call
put
it
the
food.
movie on.
Tyler, where I'm from, we just call it food.
Yeah.
Interesting story on that line of reasoning. I really like the Mission Impossible movies, always have, but it took Tyler making me dinner and making buying the movies on Apple TV to get me to watch the latest ones with him. And I was like, I'll get to them eventually, and it was a good time. And through that, it actually leveraged us into going to see Fallout the day it came out. So it was worth it in the end.
Well, back to our question now.
And the real Mission Impossible, I like to think, are the friends we made along the way. So what's next, Tyler?
Well, talking about A Quiet Place, they're on the Paramount Plus app. If you're listening and you want to check them out, I highly recommend them. They're actually pretty good. It's something different. That's what I give them credit for. It's something different. It's suspenseful, and it's something that it's free. So why not watch it? Second question for you, Ronald. Here. Could this signal Krasinski is not in the lead for any Marvel roles?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like the fans were talking about it too much. He's too obvious. That's one of the things I've always given Marvel credit for, with a few exceptions. Not that it was ever bad casting, but they don't go with like the most obvious casting. They don't go with the actor who necessarily like looks exactly like a drawing. They go with somebody who's going to bring a really good performance, like Jonathan Majors coming in as Krang the Conqueror. Krang the Conqueror is a blue alien, but for them to bring in an actor with as much gravitas and as much skill as Jonathan Majors, who's going to play not only Krang but a bunch of his variants, they're like, okay, we brought in a guy who can do 1,000 different versions of this. Yeah. And he's not a blue alien. Like they didn't even bother to CGI him into something else. Like, no, let his performance be what it is. And I think that's the thing with Krasinski. Like people have talked about it so much online now, so much fan art. And I've only ever seen him really in The Office and in The Holiday, starring Alec Baldwin and Meryl Streep and Steve Martin. So I can't speak to his range, but I just don't think that's the direction they're going to go.
I really fucked that up. Editor's note, guys. I know Krang is not an alien. I just said it because it sounded good. And the movie's called It's Complicated. It's not The Holiday. I really fucked that all up. Okay, back to the show.
And if I were Marvel and I were bringing in somebody like Reed Richards, who in the comic books is a major part of the universe, kind of at the center of a lot of the really big stuff, I wouldn't bring in a guy, who's already really well known, who's already in his mid to late 40s. Maybe bring in someone in their early 30s, somebody who's a kind of a blank slate for the audience to go, well, that's Reed Richards. And then you could have this guy start his contract for less money, keep him around for 15 to 20 years until you kill off his character and move on to the next arc. I feel like that for Marvel, that seems like more the route they would go.
That's pretty interesting there. The one piece that I'll throw in there was with Adam Warlock. I didn't see that casting coming, and I can't think of the actor's name.
Will Poulter.
There you go.
Yeah.
You've seen him in comedies so far. I guess one of the movies he was in, what is that?
We Are the Millers.
That one, but the other one, the more, one's based off a book. What was that?
Hunger Games.
No.
Maze Runner.
There you go.
Twilight. 50 Shades of Grey. The Bible. I'm just naming books.
I know. The surprising part of it for me was that I didn't see that casting coming, but I think...
And have you seen him now that he's all fit? Guy's hot.
Yeah.
He got hot.
You got to trust the people casting him. And James Gunn does not mess around with who he casts in roles. I'm gonna throw that out there.
He'll cast somebody straight out of fucking left field, and it'll be like, oh my God, I cannot possibly see this as a different person.
Yeah. Only small amount of people were butthurt that it wasn't...
Zac Efron.
There you go. You got the names for me today.
Yeah, I do, man. I'm on point. Me and Jackawak got your back since I'm sipping a little bit of Bang energy.
Well, next piece of news for you, and it's an easy one. So,
are you going to read it from the notes?
I am.
Okay.
Netflix released a poster for Umbrella Academy season 3.
For what?
I'm not going to read the note you put in there, but now
R-rated today. We're R-rated.
Now we've talked about the Umbrella Academy. I'm a fan of the show, a fan of the series, and we've talked about Dark Horse properties. Easy question for you, Ronald. Are you actually going to watch or catch up in the series?
No.
There we go.
I really like season 1, and I got like 35 minutes in the first episode of season 2, and I got interrupted. And at this point, I just got other stuff to do, unfortunately. You know, I feel the same way about Punisher season 2. I really loved season 1. I was liking season 2. I got interrupted, and it just, stuff happens. Sometimes you don't get around to stuff you like. And the Marvel stuff is all coming off of Netflix probably for a year or two. So I missed my opportunity on that one.
Kind of funny with the Punisher one. I actually had a piece of Punisher news for the week, but I took it out because I didn't think it was relevant.
My God, those.
Now we're just going to move on to the next piece.
Sounds good. What's next?
A third Sonic movie has been greenlit and potential Knuckles spin-off series with Paramount Plus. So with these movies, I didn't see any of them coming. I didn't see a second movie being made, spin-off series, any of that kind of stuff. Have you been following any of these?
I have. I really liked number 1. It was surprisingly good. I thought it was, as a kid's movie, amazing. As an adult movie as a movie that was based off a video game for grown-ups, it was still good. Like, it was a solid movie. As you know, I love Jim Carrey. So I thought it was really solid. And I think it came out in like February or January of 2020. So for like 12 months, it was the biggest movie in the world because it was the only movie that had like a full run. And it was fun. So I think it makes sense. I think the returns on this movie are good because their budget's not crazy high. Even though obviously it's super CGI heavy, but I think they just they found a nice wheelhouse. And anybody I know with kids who's seen it said, "Oh, that my kid loves it." And it's not as soulless as some of the other kid stuff that they've gotten 18 spinoffs about the sidekicks and all this kind of crap. It's like, oh, this is stuff people have liked for a long time. We're doing it with some care. They even fixed the Sonic model when everybody hated it. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that I haven't watched this one yet because I did play Sonic growing up, had my Sega, all that kind of good stuff. But I don't have an answer. I guess just like how Ronald doesn't have an answer why he didn't finish The Punisher or Umbrella Academy. I just don't have an answer because it's free. I think it's on Paramount Plus and it's on Hulu.
Yeah, and I think that one, of the things we listed, Sonic is definitely a put on while you work movie. So you might want to check it out later this week if you're bored.
Yeah, Ronald doesn't know me, knows that I just put stuff on while I work and I don't really watch it. So maybe we'll see. Next one here, right before the finale was on with HBO Max, Peacemaker 2, Season 2 was announced. A lot of Twitter buzz, Twitter world going crazy with it. Of course, there was some drama with the characters on who was taken out, who was supposed to be in it, and all the stuff about then once the finale did come out, the lines that were in it, and that's too wouldn't say that.
Hey,
people don't make those jokes.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, sorry about that. But anyways, you should have seen it by now. With James Gunn's ability to make something out of nothing.
I'm going to bleep that out.
Well, going back to it, James Gunn, his ability to make something out of nothing, very evident in my opinion. That show was a knockout. One of the best of these premium series that we've seen these days with comic book characters. From what I've seen, Gunn he's going to go do Guardians 3, then he's going to come back to work on different DC properties. Do you think there's something bigger in the works with him at DC?
I think there might be, but the thing that has worked best for Guardians, Suicide Squad, and Peacemaker in James Gunn's favor, and that allows him to be James Gunn, is that he works with characters that nobody gives a about, and it's that freedom of people not necessarily having huge investments in the backstory of the character or them having a huge, like a cornerstone of the universe. Like if Guardians was really weird and people hated it, they were literally in a different galaxy. Like they didn't have to ever show up. I remember that was spoken of when the movie came out. Like, we don't know if they're going to ever meet the Avengers. Remember that?
I don't, but that's a good point.
They mentioned that. And then like same thing with Suicide Squad. If it bombed, everybody hated it. Like, yeah, well, this was a secret mission. It doesn't affect the rest of the universe. And then for the most part, same thing with Peacemaker. It's covert stuff. So I feel like
shunting James Gunn into something that's really big and high profile might kind of stifle his ability to be himself. But one thing I did want to hint on, I was kind of irritated. I think we talked about this last episode where people will come out and be like, oh, my character does this, but just check it out. And they like give away stuff about the series. I'm always irritated when the studios will do shit like that. Like say the day before Suicide Squad comes out, they announce that there's a Peacemaker show and it's almost done. So you're like, okay, well, I guess we know one of the characters probably doesn't die then, right? And then for them to say, oh, there's a Peacemaker 2 greenlit a week before the finale, you're like, okay, well, before that, this could have been a limited series. Maybe he died at the end. And now okay, well, he probably didn't because they didn't do a prequel with the series the first time. They're definitely not going to do a prequel the second time. So I wish they would just like wait till the week after the finale. So there's some mystery because they never announced if Peacemaker is going to be an ongoing series. I mean, it looks expensive. It's very well made. It doesn't seem like the kind of show you make 15 series of. So that bothers me. Please stop doing that, guys.
I thought it was kind of one small note for it with Peacemaker that's positive and not so negative as Ronald put her out there. But with Peacemaker, I actually saw one of the directors with it was Jody Hill. And at the moment, he's also working on the Gemstones. So to see that kind of crossover, I don't know if there's any type of correlation with it, but to see someone like him coming from the comedy world, coming over to Peacemaker and being able to direct a show, and it was not a bad episode. It's pretty cool that way, but small insight to it. And with Gunn and with what Ronald said, I do agree that the mystery after, like you're like, oh, is there going to be another season? Like, I'm going to use the Umbrella Academy as an example. Like there's that period where you're like, okay, are they going to make another series? When is it come out? That mystery, you're like, okay, yeah, like I really want one. I really want one. And of course you get all invested in it. And when they say, yeah, next season's coming out, you get all excited for it. But when they do say it before, you're like, okay, you start to make your guesses in your head that this character is not going to die. And the mystery is kind of not there. But I will say, and with the finale of it, I know that I already ruined it for one person that might be listening.
It's okay, I bleeped it out.
Yeah, that there is some cool stuff that they worked into it that I was not expecting. That's the most I'm going to say with it.
Yes. Maybe next week or something we'll do a full review and we can talk about all that stuff. But until we do the full review, it's kind of a dick move to spoil it. What do you think, listeners?
Well, we're going to move on. I'm not going to answer that. My last piece of news here that is actually one that, oh man, I had a tough time typing it. I'm
sure you did.
Because it's one that I just love to make fun of. But Uncharted is currently rocking at the box office right now. And the critics score is not good, but the audience score is doing pretty good. But at the same time, the studio president comes out and says that this might be their new franchise movie.
Yeah.
Interesting point there. Ronald, do you think this is a case of this movie, there's a lot of fans of the actors associated with it? So like any chance that they're kind of riding off of some of Tom Holland's recent success? Or am I just being an ass and not giving credit to the movie?
Well, one, yes, you're being an ass, but that's usually how I like to start all my sentences. Two, I think it's exactly what we talked about when we were positing like the hits and misses for this, that Tom Holland has the biggest movie in the world since Endgame, right? Like Endgame was 2019. So for the past 3 years, the biggest movie that's come out starred Tom Holland. And so his name is super hot. Also, he was in Endgame. So like for the past decade, the biggest movies that have come out, this guy has been a part of for the most part. So his name's super hot. It is a beloved video game franchise. And we talked about this last week. The adventure movie is in right now. People, the world is fucked up. Okay, there's so much fucked up shit and I can't show a couple of blue butts on TV. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, the world's all jacked up. So everybody wants an escape. And adventure movies allow you to do that. You get to see the world through the character's eyes. You have a little romp. You know, the stakes aren't going to get too high. And I think people are looking for an escape and they are looking for a name they know. And for the same reason that Red Notice broke streaming records, this is doing buku bucks.
Interesting take on it. I can agree with it because it's a very well-balanced one, I'll say.
Thank you.
But other than that, that's all the news I got for you, Ronald.
All right. Well, I ain't got no fucking news, bitch. It's going to make me work so much harder to bleep all these out.
Yes, it is. Well, trailers. Going to the trailers. And with this episode, I actually have some trailers, but that's probably because since we last recorded, the Super Bowl happened, and Super Bowl is a typical time for big movies to come out with trailers. Ronald, do you have any?
I don't.
Well, I'll talk about the ones that I have then.
There we go, big guy.
One of the ones that I saw last week was The Contractor.
What's that?
It's Chris Pine, Ben Foster. They're basically discharged army guys, and then they go on some type of hired run, some type of mission, and then it turns out the organization they're working with might be evil.
Whoa.
And the whole time I'm watching it, and probably anybody that watched it as well was thinking the same thing. I feel like I've seen this. I feel like I've seen it somewhere, and that it's nothing new. But
Hey, you ever see that movie Alpha Dog with Ben Foster in it? It was him and Justin Timberlake and the late great Anton Yelchin.
I have seen it.
It's a good movie. You know what's weird? That part at the end where Ben Foster comes in the party and does karate and like beats up a bunch of people and like he kicks a girl in the head. So anyway, what's our next trailer?
Okay. Jurassic Park came out with a trailer. I didn't really watch it. I more just looked at the CGI of it, and it looks pretty darn good.
That's good, dude. How good does Goldblum look? They took his beard off from the last one, and he's looking young. He's looking fit, man. Very tall.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of they're going for the greatest hits with this one, trying to bring people in. I feel like a lot of the audience was pretty mad when it turned out that I don't think I can pronounce his last name. The director Trevorrow,
Colin Trevorrow.
There you go. That he was coming back for the third. I think there were a lot of fans that liked the second director. The more it wasn't really horror in my opinion, but they liked that director.
I didn't like that one.
I didn't think it was that good either, but I know a lot of fans were mad that he wasn't coming back for the third. So anyways.
Well, anywho, what else we got?
Last trailer was the Elvis trailer that released this week, and it was interesting. I don't like the director and those types of movies. It was Baz Luhrmann.
Oh.
Could care less, honestly, about the type of movies he makes, so kind of sucks, but not going to watch it probably.
Yeah, me neither. I wonder if they're going to be kind of more transparent about his backstory and about how he maybe groomed a 14-year-old and then married her and stole all his music from black people or whatever.
I was about to say, one of the comments on Twitter was like, "Is this movie going into how he stole people's music?" Which I thought was pretty funny, but that's just me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I ain't got no trailers. So what else we got going on, big dog?
Just for Ron, we have our sketch for the week.
Woo! I love sketches.
With this sketch, it's mostly a time with right now Academy Awards and their nominations are out. We're looking at them, but it's kind of us being the movie buffs, and we haven't really seen them. We're just going to make our own sketch out of this.
Let's do it.
With that one, what we're going to do is round one. What Ronald and I are going to do is just go through the current 2022 nominations for Best Picture. And we're just going to say if we watched them or if we didn't. And so it's going to be pretty quick round one. And we'll give our opinion on it. So
okay, ready, set, go.
Belfast.
Nope.
Coda.
Nope.
Don't Look Up.
Nope.
Drive My Car.
Nope.
Dune.
Yep.
King Richard.
Nope.
Licorice Pizza. Nope. Nightmare Alley.
Unfortunately.
The Power of a Dog.
Nope.
West Side Story.
Nope.
There we go.
That was
pretty fast
good.
there.
Woof, that was good. My tongue burns from how fast that was.
We'll just quickly hit on Dune because we did do an episode about it. So definitely listen to that episode. We'll put a link in the description for it to make sure that you can hear both of our opinions on the movie. We both were big fans of it. And that's probably my vote for Best Picture. But with this being the Academy Awards, it's most likely going to go to something like Licorice Pizza or
Hope not.
Coda or something that nobody has even seen. So that's my opinion on that. Ronald, do you want to give a quick opinion on Nightmare Alley, even though we did talk about it? But what did you think about it?
I thought that it was well made. One of the things that I've always found a little quarrelsome, and I'm probably in the minority about this, but I've always found a little quarrelsome about Guillermo del Toro's movies, is that they never feel like they've taken place at anywhere.
Like even in no, it's
I
wonderful.
get what you're saying.
It's wonderful set design, but it always feels like set design. Like even in Hellboy, where they're in like these separate dimensions that are covered in monsters, everything looks so meticulously placed. It looks like they're in line at a Disney ride. And Disney rides have wonderful production, and they have wonderful production, but it always feels like this sense of artifice about it. And I know it's part of his aesthetic. It kind of as a throwback to like 1940s, 50s, 30s monster films where everything was on very obvious sets. But to me, it always kind of removes me from the drama of it. The other thing is the pacing of this movie, just for me, wasn't great. I think we discussed this. First hour of the movie could have been done as one flashback or as, I don't love people just giving exposition, but could have done as a couple lines of exposition. But instead, it's a full hour of him learning his mentalism trick. And I just said the pacing was just so, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. So I actually ended up not finishing the movie. But that being said, it kind of led me to that opinion we talked about, where it was nice that it was more accessible. I was able to check it out and have an opinion on one of these movies. Whereas before, if you had to go buy a ticket, say like the year The Artist was out, I don't know anybody who saw that movie because nobody knew anything about it. And I'm not going to go spend $20 and what amounts to probably, even if it's a 2-hour movie, that's 4 hours of your life because you got to leave. You got to get there early. You got to sit through the credits. You probably have dinner. It ends up being a whole day you give up to see a movie that you don't know anything about that might suck. So it's nice to have the accessibility.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that little breakdown and little tangent as well. Make sure that you check out, I believe it was episode 10 of the podcast. I believe that's when you talked about Nightmare Alley. We'll put that one in the description too to listen to the full episode. Also hear a little bit of Ronald talk about Nightmare Alley. But round 2 now, we're going to do something that I kind of made up on the fly here to give us a better idea for what we're going to do for round 3. So round 2, we're going to go through the past 11 years of Best Picture winners. And then from that, I'll be able to know how we can rank them. So Ronald, quick answers.
Okay.
The King's Speech.
Nope.
The Artist.
Nope.
Argo.
Nope.
12-Year Slave.
Nope.
Birdman.
Yes.
Spotlight.
Nope.
Moonlight.
Nope.
The Shape of Water.
Nope.
The Green Book.
Nope.
Parasite.
Yes.
Nomadland.
Nope.
Okay, so for round 3, what we're actually going to do is we're going to give our top 3 of the past. We're going to rank our top 3 from the past 11 years. And I know Ronald only has 2, so he's not going to have 3.
Classic Tammy.
Ronald.
Yeah.
With the 2 that you saw, how would you rank them?
Oh man, it's tough because they're so wildly different in films. Birdman, I really loved, as you know, I'm a huge Bat fan. So to see that was kind of the start of the Keaton Renaissance that led to kind of where he is now, where he's back in everything. People love him. They remember he's a movie star for a reason. And Parasite, I thought was like a surprise too. It was kind of marketed more as like a thriller where it's funny in a lot of parts of it. It was a great movie. And I think it did an excellent job of kind of breaking down that barrier that people had to like, oh, I don't want to see a foreign film because of subtitles or if the themes won't resonate with me. And people saw like, oh yeah, there's a lot of things that are just universal. And if the barrier to this universal story is 1 inch of text, then maybe you don't want to experience things. Maybe you're making an excuse. So it's hard for me to say.
Okay. Well, for my rankings on this one, I'm going to give a little side note to it because the first one on there, and I made sure to include this on there so I could say this, is the King's Speech. And in the year that King's Speech won, Inception was up for Best Picture. And if you know my taste in movies, you know that I'm a Nolanite. And the fact that the King's Speech won over Inception, in my opinion, Inception is one of the best movies I've seen. I learn something new about the movie each time I see it. And
I get it because time. You said time.
King's Speech, how many people actually saw it? So I'm going to say that about it. But my top 3. And with this one, I'm not putting Nomadland in it because I thought it was one of the most boring movies I've ever seen. Number 3, Green Book. And that one comes with the side note that, was it really a Best Picture movie? I mean, it was good, but I remember like when I saw that they won, I was like, it was even nominated. It wasn't even. It's got a good message, which I think is why they won. But I mean, come on now. Number 2, I'm gonna give to Spotlight. I liked the direction of it. It was
Michael Keaton
interesting.
in that one too?
Yeah, he was.
Damn it, man. He's on a run.
Yeah. It was entertaining. And for a best picture, entertaining is good, in my opinion. The one that's right after it was Moonlight, which was another one of those where I just don't know how it won, but that's just me. And then number 1 for my top 3 of the last 11 years is Argo. It was suspenseful. It was entertaining. Mr. Ben Affleck was in it. But I feel like that was one of those surprising wins too. I'm sure a lot of people that were watching wouldn't have thought that Argo was going to win. But that's my top 3 of the past 11 years with the Best Picture winners.
Nice. And you know what? Anybody who says that biopics aren't Oscar bait is absolutely full of shit, because 5 of those 11 are about real people. All right, what's next?
Well, as we continue in the podcast, we're going to make sure we do our plugs of the day. Last week, we released a new back day where Ronald went over Netflix's Inside of Bo Burnham and his journey over quarantine time. So make sure you check that out. It's a pretty quick episode. I think it's less than 15 minutes. Ronald, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But
yeah, it's around that.
Check it out. We're going to have a link for that in the description. That is our second episode of Back Day, which is none of the sketches, none of the news, just right into the meaty, beefy stuff, that main set. So you're not warming up. You're just going right into chest or squats or deadlifts and probably pulling a muscle.
Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of podcast episode where we get a little dangerous.
Very dangerous. And these first 2 episodes of Back Day have been just Ronald. So Ronald screaming into the microphone, him just saying the most random stuff ever.
If you basically, if you want more killer, less filler, check out Back Day. All right, Tyler, let's move on to our main set, dude. What we got?
Main set for this weekend with main set today, and this is actually what I like about this one, is we have a movie that's on Amazon Prime. It's accessible if you have Amazon Prime, that if you're home, you're on the weekend, you want to not Netflix and chill, if you want Amazon Prime and chill, check out I Want You Back. Ronald, can you jump into some of the details of this?
So, I Want You Back is a film starring Jenny Slate and Charlie Day, who we all know and love from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the longest running live action sitcom in television history. It's directed by Jason Orley, who apparently has been an assistant and writer in Hollywood for the last 10 years. So I'm guessing this is a debut picture. It's kind of a throwback to the romantic comedies that were really prevalent in the 90s and early 2000s, and kind of like what we spoke about with adventure movies and Jack Reacher. It's not embarrassed of that. It just is a straight up rom-com. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it gives you a nice, fun story. And the premise is that 2 newly dumped individuals, Peter and Emma, played by Day and Slate, they meet up while crying in the stairwell of their shared office building, and they decide to go out for a drink to bond about their pain, and end up deciding that, hey, we're going to help each other get our exes back. And both of them were dumped for another person. So they go about trying to break up these new relationships and get each other their exes back.
Yeah. Yep. Before I give my non-spoiler, I'm going to make sure I give my shout out to my fellow Pinoy brother, Manny Jacinto. Not many times you see a Filipino in any Hollywood movie. So
I gotta say, dude, his hair was phenomenal. And then in the spoiler alert scene where they're about to do a 3-way, the guy's got a rig on him. He's so skinny, and you didn't think he had that kind of rig underneath those jeans. But he was pecked out. His abs were popping. He even had some good quads on him. So shout out to Manny Jacinto. You look good, my friend.
Yeah. I only know 2 Filipinos that are famous. So the fact that he's one of them now, awesome. Digging it. Well, my friend Jordan.
Oh. Well, in my defense, my first thought is always Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, I guess, but he's like literally the king of the Philippines. But
that's why he comes up first in my mind. Sorry, Jordan.
With my non-spoiler, I'm not going to lie with this one, that I was actually a little worried with watching the trailer that it being an Amazon Prime movie, the track record just is not the best, in my opinion. Some of the movies they've put out, I just feel like they miss something. They miss a piece that you're just like, that movie just needed maybe 2 more months of editing or maybe some reshoots just to round it out. But I was actually surprised. And that's why I wanted to make sure I said that it's available on Amazon Prime, because you don't have to go pay money for it. If you have Amazon Prime, which a lot of people do these days, you could just go watch it, and it's something fun to watch. I think it does. Is it R-rated? I didn't check that in making this podcast episode.
Just like this podcast episode, it's R-rated. There's a lot of F's and Jeffs in there.
It has to be, yeah. But
don't worry, guys. There's no nips or tips. A little bit of hips, but no nips and tips. But there are a lot of F's and Jeffs.
I'm not going to give away the ending with it, but in your thought process when you watch the trailer, you're probably thinking the same thing. Aren't Charlie Day and Jenny Slate just going to end up together? And you'll have to tune in to the movie to see.
Yeah. So I guess, do you want me to go spoiler? There's no reason. There's spoilers. It's a rom-com. Have fun with it. A couple of notes. I did take 3 big notes. Okay. So there's a point in the movie where Jenny Slate is working to try to get Manny Jacinto and Gina Rodriguez, who plays Charlie Day's ex, to break up. So she's at this children's play rehearsal because they're both teachers at a school, and they're doing a rehearsal and she's trying to break them up. And she gets a butt dial from her ex, Scott Eastwood, who's out at the club with Charlie, who's trying to get Scott Eastwood and his girlfriend to break up. Now, Charlie and Scott Eastwood are at this club, right? They're getting bottle service. They're like deep into the night, right? While Jenny Slate and the rest of the cast are at a children's play rehearsal. Why the fuck are they at the club that early?
I didn't put those.
Or why the fuck are they at the rehearsal that late?
That's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
It bugged me so bad. And then the other big note that bothered me. I like this movie, by the way. I liked it a lot. But the next thing that bothered me a bunch is, it was, as the movie's going on, immediately following that, they go back to these girls' house for a nightcap. And then all of a sudden, like fucking Jaws out of the ocean, Pete Davidson shows up. And I was like, oh my God, you cannot get away from this fucking guy. I was watching it at my parents' house with my parents, actually. And I went, oh no. My mom's like, oh no, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, no, Pete Davidson's here.
Side note here, shout out to Ryan from the OC for popping in that scene as well.
Right? It was good to see him.
Hell yeah, making those random appearances.
And then another funny story regarding the film, has nothing to do with the movie, but both my wife and my dad in their respective seats knocked out within moments of the movie starting. And then the best part were their respective reactions. We all, after that, everybody fell asleep for the night. We went to our rooms. And the next day my dad went, the movie was good. I was like, you don't know that. He's like, I liked it. I was like, you liked it because you slept. And then my wife went, hey, tell me what happened in that movie. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, after I fell asleep. I was like, you fell asleep during the opening credits. She's like, yeah. So tell me what happened. So, of course, being the great husband I am, I told her every moment of the movie. But I just thought those reactions were funny. So I do recommend watching it. I think it's a fun time. As Tyler said, it's very accessible. It's one of those movies that you can just put on, enjoy, not have to think too much. Don't think about the timing about the club, okay? And just enjoy the movie, have fun. Charlie Day always delivers. He's hilarious. Scott Eastwood gives a really good performance in this too, which it's surprising. I've never seen him really do comedy before. I thought he did a great job. He was actually playing Tyler and myself.
Yeah, I was about to say that. That was one of my notes right here. Was Scott Eastwood given a good performance as a personal trainer? Yeah. Other than Charlie Day
some love.
Even though Charlie Day was squatting 115 with a pad on his back, major L for that scene. I'm gonna put that out there.
Hey, as you know, sometimes a client insists on the pad, and sometimes you gotta let him go with it, man. Whatever gets him through the day.
Whenever that does happen, my face is just utter disgust when they ask for the pad.
Well,
just
yeah, you gotta
disgust.
You gotta walk away and act like you don't know who that is. But so like, you want the pad to save your neck, Ron? Who's gonna save your spine? Because I'm not spotting you, bro.
Get out of here. There's a scene in here that got me thinking about something that I think you and I have actually talked about, and this is less movie related, more fitness related. So I guess this could be part of that. Mm-hmm. So when Charlie and Scott, they're running, they're going to go get some pie. So they're exercising and trying to run under, I forgot what it is, under 7 minute miles, something like that. Uh-huh. And they run like an additional 3 miles. And so they're hanging out at this pie shop. And I'm not going to get too much into that whole scene of it, but it got me thinking, Ronald, because actually I have hung out with you when you have hung out with your clients. What is your policy on hanging out with clients outside the gym?
Now, I actually started my career personal training while I was in college. I think you did as well. So at the time when I was training, either alumni or faculty or even other students, I had a rule that I'm not your friend, I'm your trainer. Because of the age difference. I was 20, so I wanted to make sure that there was a boundary there. But now, as a 25-year-old or some other age, I don't really care as long as there's a relationship already there. So a lot of my clients I've had for years, so we chill. Me and a couple of my guys. Shout out to the boys; they know who they are. We got Man Marg Friday. Every once in a while, we'll go get some margaritas after the gym, and it's just a couple of bros. Couple of margs and not a pair of sleeves in sight.
Interesting. Okay.
How about you?
Well, I don't train people anymore, so
I
don't need a policy anymore. But I think the only exceptions I've made in the past have been when maybe I trained somebody that I knew from like high school or from school, because that has been it's come up a couple of times where it was somebody from like high school, so like hanging out after, or in college it was, somebody in the same circle, something like that. But really, I have to go back on that. There was one other point where I would meet up with a client of mine that he would do like these like football with his friend. They always needed one extra person, so it'd be me and like these like 40-year-old men playing like flag football.
You lied this whole time.
Yeah, I'm lying, but it was worth it.
And you know what? In my defense too, I mean, I can't really help it. I mean, you know me, Tyler. I'm goddamn delightful. People just want to be around, and people want to have a good time. They want to hear me talk. They want to hear me talk. They want to hear me say stuff that maybe sometimes makes them go, "What the fuck?" And speaking of what the fuck, man, let's move on to this week's what the fuck moment of the week.
WTF moment of the week is just you're going through your day, you're going through your week, and you just see something, and you're like, WTF. Why is that happening? And sometimes it's with movies. Sometimes it's with shows. We try to keep it a part of one of those things with this being a movie podcast. But this week it's Ron, and I'm not going to read Ron's note in this. But Ron, what is your WTF moment?
So this WTF moment actually relates directly to what I'm watching. Now, Tyler, have you gotten a chance to watch Pam and Tommy on Hulu yet?
No, because we finished watching Reacher first.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that off the podcast or maybe later. But anyway, so Pam and Tommy, as I've mentioned before, covers the whole sex tape scandal between Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee and how that came about, the theft of their private safe and the release of this, intimate moment. But it also is a bit of a comedy show to kind of lighten it. It's heavy. These people got stolen from and got their private stuff thrown all over the internet. It's messed up. But there's a moment in the second episode after Pam and Tommy meet and he pursues her and tries to woo her, and he follows her to a vacation, and then they end up getting together and he's like, I'm in love. So the next day after they get together for the first time, I'm going to set the scene, right? So the camera pans around a room that's all destroyed, right? Because rock star lifestyle. And then you hear Tommy talking to somebody saying, she's the one, man. She's the one. I wasn't ready for this, but she's the one. I think I'm in love. And you hear someone else's voice go, no, man, like you can't be in love. Like we just got divorced. So we have to go like meet more chicks. Like this is bullshit. Like I want to be single. Like let's be single together. And he's like, no, man, she's the one. All right. So the camera pans into this big giant restroom and you see Sebastian Stan, who plays Tommy Lee, standing naked from the rear in front of a big mirror, and you just hear these voices going back and forth, and you're like, what is going on? Who's he talking to? Then the camera pans around to the front and we see he's talking to what turns out to be, now Tyler knows what the ending of the story is because of the note, an animatronic penis. What? And it's a full-size Tommy Lee animatronic penis voiced by Jason Mantzoukas from The League and lots of stuff. And the penis has a little mouth on the end, and it's facing up towards him, talking about how we're not ready to settle down, Tommy. And Tommy says, no, we're gonna. And that made me go, WTF.
There's moments in shows in life where you think, am I on drugs? Did the drink that I just have, Was it laced with something? Did something just happen? And that's what I feel like right now to listen to that story. But
yeah, man, didn't see that coming. I thought maybe he was talking to his buddy, like, maybe him and his buddy were both just like taking a dump in the back. Rock stars are weird.
Yeah.
And nope, he's talking to his wiener, and it's animatronic, and it had a mouth on it. And I know what you're thinking. No, the penis head didn't have teeth. Okay.
I was actually thinking, is this going to be another one of those Sex in the City comments? Because I don't know if I could take another one.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Damn it, I missed it. I should have just talked about Sex. It's over. I should have talked about it again. All right. So basically, I just gave away one of the two things I'm currently watching. The other is Bel-Air, the reboot of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Have you got a chance to check that out at all?
I have not.
You know what? I got to say, it's kind of like what I mentioned with Sonic, that, if you're going to reboot or redo or just make an adaptation of something that people have loved for a long time, it's really important that you don't do it like a cash grab, that you give it at least some care and some love. And for this, I got to say, some is an understatement. This show is so good. It's well acted from head to toe. It's beautifully shot. Obviously, it takes place local to where I am here in Los Angeles, but it's beautifully shot. The music is phenomenal because, it takes place modern day. So it's a lot of the bangers we listen to now. And it takes a very mature, like serious tone with it. Not really a spoiler, but here's just a kind of a taste. Like, in the theme song, he says, I got in one little fight. My mom got scared. Well, the first 20 minutes of the episode shows Will being like this blue chip D1 basketball recruit who goes to a basketball game at the park in his neighborhood and gets into an altercation with some drug dealers who end up putting a hit out on him and his friend. And he gets arrested for a gun charge, and his mom in the middle of the night ships him out to Bel-Air because this drug dealer is trying to murder him and his friend. So it's not like a fun little thing. You're like, holy crap. And so with that as the backdrop, like the whole tone of the series changes. But at the same time, it's still lighthearted enough that it's a fun time. The acting is phenomenal. I do have one major criticism. The new Uncle Phil, he's just not Uncle Phil, I don't know about you, but I love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And James Avery was just such a powerful actor, and he's such a giant man. Like Will Smith is 6'2", and James Avery towered over him. And he's just this big, larger than life man. So when he gave his life lessons or got mad at Will, and, you really felt it. And this new actor he's really good, but he's just not James Avery. And so that's the only problem I have with the show. But I think you should check it out. It's on Peacock.
Yeah, but I was looking up while you're talking about it. I was not an avid viewer of The Fresh Prince, and I didn't actually know that this came out.
Yeah. And the origin of this is actually pretty cool. The person listed as the show creator, I think, and executive producer, it's a couple of people that they just made a YouTube video a few years ago. They made a YouTube short, like pitching what would Fresh Prince of Bel-Air be like now, talking about more about race theory and about, interactions with the police in the modern day, and, just talking about the same ideas, but in a more serious sense, using 21st century, like, music and editing and all that stuff. So they made this video kind of for themselves, but kind of as a pitch. Will Smith saw it, bought the concept from them, brought them on to help create and run this show. And I always love stories like that. It's just, it's really inspiring to see somebody just take a chance on themselves and it work out and they make something genuinely good. So that's what I'm watching.
Nice. With my usuals, Gemstones, Euphoria, and there's one story that I wanted to tell with Euphoria that I kind of found interesting that doesn't ruin any, because I know that Euphoria fans are they're very much into and invested in this series.
Luckily, this will come out about 7 days after the episode you watched. So
with the later episodes, Minka Kelly's in it just for little pieces of it. And I read some tweet about how there was supposed to be a scene where Minka Kelly basically drops her dress down and it's maybe just she's nude in it, but I don't know if it shows full frontal. It's just a tweet about it. So you don't get much information about it, but supposedly she told the director that I'm just going to keep my clothes on for this scene. And they had to change the scene for it. And people were basically just blasting this director for not everybody's going to take their clothes off for you. And I guess there's actually other reports coming out about people that get in disputes with the director and him cutting them out of scenes, taking scenes away from them. And I mean, I've said this from the beginning with Euphoria that for myself and my taste in shows and movies, it's just very borderline. Some of this stuff, it's borderline with, did you really need to do that? I mean, did you really need to do lighting like that? Or did you really need to break the wall like that? Stuff like that, the fourth wall. Like, do you need to always do that kind of stuff? And so it's borderline for me. I know that people love the show, some people, but for me, it's something to watch. But other than that, we finished Reacher, and I'm just going to tell one joke about it. And I know that not everybody likes my taste in shows and movies, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, for me, the acting is just kind of it's suspect. It's a little suspect. And my wife made a joke that she thinks that I don't like it because it's too similar to like a network crime show or like a network show. And it's probably right, in my opinion. Some of the actors in it are just not for me. And I think you started watching it.
I watched it first, man. I loved it.
Yeah, you did?
Okay. I thought it was just, again, a fun film. I mean, a fun show. It's not, I think the acting style matches the writing style perfectly.
To each their own.
Because that's really that. I saw a tweet that said that, Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart being Oscar nominees really shows you that the actor's only as good as the writing. And not to say that the writing on that show is bad at all by any means, but I'm just saying, you have to perform to the tone and the timbre of the writing you're given. And I think the performances match. But I wanted to kind of touch on what you talked about Euphoria. And that's really kind of upsetting to hear. It's kind of sad when people do that, when, they try to leverage people into nudity or any kind of thing they're uncomfortable with, because like we talked about, for a lot of people, this is their end game, biggest dream of their life is to be an actor and be on something successful. So it's really upsetting and unfortunate when you hear people kind of taking advantage of that, not desperation, but, people really want to be there. And it's in that case, the person with the power tends to have a lot of the power because it could be life changing to be a part of something like that. So I hope that people aren't being taken advantage of, because that would be super unfortunate. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, to kind of segue on to shows in the future, because at this period right now, not watching as many as usual. I think it's kind of that waiting period where we're waiting for new content to come out that I know that we'll be talking about on this podcast, like Obi-Wan, Moon Knight. So in that interesting period where we're just waiting for some good stuff to come. You agree?
Yeah. I feel like, but there's a good lull because we need time to catch up. And there's a lot of movies out that we got to go see in the coming weeks. I'm going to try to get a chance to see Death on the Nile. I really want to check out Jackass just because it looks dumb and fun. And I want to see Uncharted so I can review it to Tyler.
And I will not listen to that. But as we segue now to our post-workout takeaways and cool it down just a bit further for ourselves and for our listeners. And for this one, while Ron takes a big exhale right there, it's a good reminder for our listeners to make sure that you fuel your body, fuel the body, make sure that you're getting enough energy. The way that you got to think about it is that the food you eat is going to make sure that you get quality workouts. If you can't fuel your body, the workout's not going to be as long. It's going to be most likely poor. And you're just going to be looking at yourself like, oh, but I need to starve myself in order to reach this goal, or I want to look a certain way. And I'm going to tell you right now that does not equal long-term success. So try it. Try fueling your body, making small adjustments. And the way that I do it right now for myself is, and this is kind of why this post-workout takeaway is here, is that with breakfast, I realized that I wasn't getting enough fuel in my body to work out during the late morning because my breakfast was too small. So what I did was, on the days that I lift heavier during my workout, I just give myself a little bit more fuel in the morning, eat a little bit more breakfast, and immediate difference there. So if you're having those kinds of issues with your workouts, try these little try these little tweaks and see what happens for you in the long run.
I like it. Great takeaway from Tyler. And I think that's all we have for this week. Do you have anything else to add, Tyler?
That's all we have. Good episode.
That's all we have. All right. Well, thank you so much to every single one of you motherfuckers for listening.
and taking a little time out of your day. I know you could have been anywhere in the fucking world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it. Please be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at MovieBuffs_podcast. And if you like this episode, share it and leave us a 5-star review, because God damn it, we're 5-star men and we deserve it. Check the links in the description to find out all the great companies that help keep the lights on here in the podcast studio. And join us next week when we talk about how much editing it took me to get all the fucks out of this episode. Stay buff, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Feeling inspired by hosts Ron and Tyler to work on your health? The MovieBuffs Podcast is brought to you by Time to Train Fitness. Use the link in the description to view all of the membership options and to start a free 5-day trial. Get ready to press play on your next workout.